About half a century ago, Cambodia went through the horror of the Khmer Rouge genocide, a tragedy that took the lives of nearly 3 million people. Fast forward to today, and the country's push to rebuild has unfortunately opened the door to a whole new kind of human rights catastrophe. We're talking about a massive criminal empire built on human trafficking and technology. To really understand how to protect yourself, we first have to get our heads around just how big this whole operation is. It really all starts with this one number, 60%. And believe me, it's a figure that's almost hard to believe. Yep, you heard that right. The money generated every year by these criminal scam networks is worth up to 60% of Cambodia's entire national GDP. We are talking about an industry valued as high as $19 billion. That's a shadow economy with an unbelievable amount of power. And look, this isn't some small operation tucked away in a remote jungle. This map shows you a whole network of huge scam centers in major cities all across the country, from the coast in Sihanoukville to the capital Phnom Penh and right up to the border towns. It's a full-blown national crisis that's basically hiding in plain sight. So how on earth do tens of thousands of people get trapped in this nightmare? Well, it almost always starts with something that sounds amazing. The promise of a high-paying job, an opportunity that just seems too good to be true. Let's break down exactly how they reel you in. It's a very carefully designed trap. It kicks off with a professional-looking ad you might see on social media. The job description is a little vague, but the salary they're promising, way higher than normal. And then comes the final, crucial step. The recruiter arranges all your travel. Why? So they can deliver you right into the trap. And the jobs themselves sound completely harmless, right? They're looking for people in customer support, online marketing, translation, or IT. These are roles that are super appealing to young, educated, and multilingual people from all over Asia and even further, who are just looking for their big break. But here's one of their most insidious tactics. They exploit your trust. This quote from a survivor says it all. The recruiters often aren't strangers. They might be friends or friends of friends, which makes the whole offer seem totally safe. It's an absolutely devastating betrayal. The moment you accept the offer and land in the country, that dream job just vanishes. You're not a new employee anymore. You're their property. And the reality is a complete living hell. The contrast could not be more extreme. The promise of a high salary and a nice office job turns into the reality of having your passport taken away the second you arrive. You are then forced to commit crimes, locked inside a guarded compound, and you are, for all intents and purposes, a modern-day slave. So what is this forced criminality they talk about? Well, the most common scam is called pig butchering. The workers who've been trafficked are forced to create fake online profiles. They spend months building trust, often romantic relationships, with people all over the world. And then they butcher them by convincing them to invest their life savings into fake investment schemes. And don't think for a second that these are low-tech operations. These criminal groups are always upgrading their methods, using things like AI deepfakes and advanced translation software to make their fake identities even more convincing to a global audience. The sheer number of people caught in this web is just staggering. The United Nations estimates that there could be as many as 150,000 people being held against their will in these scam compounds in Cambodia alone. So, for those 150,000 people, what happens if they don't meet their scamming targets or if they try to resist? Well, the consequences are brutal and incredibly violent. This horrifying story from a survivor named Jompan is sadly just one of thousands. Because he wasn't complying, he was dragged into a dark room, beaten, and shocked over and over with electric batons until he passed out. This is the daily reality inside these places. So the most important thing to understand here is that there is no easy way out. If you resist, you get tortured. If you try to escape, you get beaten. And if you're not good enough at scamming people, they can literally sell you to another criminal gang, sometimes for just a few $1,000s. So you have to be asking yourself, how can an industry this evil and this large operate so openly? The answer, unfortunately, lies in a system of deep-rooted corruption that protects them from the very top. This chart tells you a lot of the story. Cambodia consistently ranks as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. This culture of impunity isn't an accident. It's actually the perfect breeding ground for these criminal networks to grow and thrive. In fact, investigations have uncovered direct connections between this whole scam economy and Cambodia's political and business elite. Huge companies like the Prince Group and Huine Group have been tied to these scam operations, with records showing connections that go all the way up to the highest levels of government, including members of the powerful Hun family. But if you really want to understand just how bold these operations are, get this. One of the biggest, most infamous scam compounds in Sihanoukville was operating wide open, right across the street from the summer home of the country's longtime prime minister. This isn't happening in the shadows. It's happening with the protection of the powerful. Okay, given this terrifying reality, how can you actually protect yourself and the people you care about? Let's turn everything we've just learned into a practical survival guide. All right, here are the critical red flags you have to watch out for. A salary that seems way too good to be true. A job description that's super vague. The recruiter putting a ton of pressure on you to say yes right away. They insist on handling all your travel. The offer came from a total stranger on social media. And there's no real formal interview process. Any one of these is a warning sign. If you see them all together, it's a blaring alarm. And that really brings us to the final, most important takeaway. That job offer you see online might look like a golden ticket, right? A fast track to a better life. But if it seems too good to be true, you have to stop and ask yourself one very serious question. Are you willing to bet your freedom, and maybe even your life, that it's real?